Hi, I'm Martie Burris, and today I'm going to be talking to you about what sucks about product management. So the agenda today is really simple. I'm going to give you a short introduction, a disclaimer, and then we'll talk about 7 things that really suck, and we can open it up for Q&A. So here's me. This is the last time I was able to go outside before coronavirus. I was actually at a Warriors game. I've been a product manager since 2016, so about 4 years now. And currently I'm a senior product manager at Salesforce. One of the reasons I'm talking to you today is because I founded an initiative called FoldingChair, and I'll talk to you about that a little bit more in a moment. I'm also a bit of an avid traveler. I like to go. And I'm also what I'd like to call a tech enthusiast. I love hearing about new technology and how technology is being used all around the world. It is super exciting, and it's something that brings me a lot of happiness and joy. And so before I get into it, I just want to talk about FoldingChair and what it is. And FoldingChair was something I started with one simple concept in mind, and that is a quote from Shirley Chisholm, which is, if there's not enough space at the table for you, bring a folding chair. And so 2 years ago, I started purposely creating space for others. I realized there was a barrier for marginalized people, especially people of color, especially Black people specifically, for them to get into spaces, technical spaces, especially product management. And so I started helping. And so since then, I've created over 4 million salaries. I think we're actually closer to the $5 million mark now since this slide was created for underrepresented product managers. And they are everywhere. They're Facebook, they're Google, they're Workday, McDonald's, Microsoft, Capital One, and a million other places that I'm not going to throw on the slide. But I want to talk about it. Currently don't have any openings for FoldingChair. We are at max capacity. But if you follow me on follow me on LinkedIn, you'll see that I actually have some opportunities. I'll have some opportunities opening up probably in the fall, and I'll put it on my LinkedIn page, as well as the website for people to sign up if you're interested. And this is just free career coaching that I do to help people out. So before I get into the presentation, I want to go through a disclaimer. And so before I begin, I want you to understand that I am not going to give you a fluffy, you should be a product manager, you should be in product type of presentation today. So if you're looking for that, it's probably a good time to close the video. But if you are looking for a very raw, candid experience and learning more about what it means to be in product management, how you get into this field, and how you really stay successful, this is what the presentation is about. And so today, after this, I want you to have a better sense of this as a career field and this is a discipline. And I also want you to feel better prepared for the pitfalls and things that are going to happen, right? We all want to, go after jobs and go after opportunities, and no one really thinks about what could go wrong. So I want to prepare you for some really common things that I see, most of these I've experienced, and then let you know how you can navigate through those, let you know that they are going to come. And I feel like a lot of these things are table stakes for a product manager. If you haven't gone through some of these things, I don't know if you can call yourself a product manager just yet. And for me, if you just learned one new thing, I would say today was worth your time. So let's jump into it. So number 7, you're not the CEO of your product. If anyone tells you that, they're lying to you. You're not, and you're not the CEO because you're not the CEO. No one has to listen to you. I have to listen to my CEO. You probably have to listen to your CEO for wherever you work, but no one is obligated to listen to you. And as a product manager, you're gonna have a lot of opinions and you're gonna want people to listen. But what you are is the thought leader. You are the visionary. And if you can work on how you influence people and how you inspire people to listen to where you're saying and how you articulate your vision, you can be a CEO one day maybe. And so no one should really know the product better than you. You have to be the subject matter expert. And part of being successful in product is really knowing how to navigate people and relationships. Relationships are everything. And so if you're really struggling with this, or you're not sure this has been, or maybe you're a current product manager and you're realizing that's a barrier to entry for you, I recommend books like How Do You Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. I also recommend books like Leaders Eat Last and things like that, because as a product manager, you are a leader in a sense, right? You are leading people. Maybe you are a people manager, maybe you are, an IC of a product, right? Whatever the case may be, but you are leading people. And so, but the leadership is different for product management because most of it is actually grown through influence. So if you can get better with influence, if you can get better with how you articulate your ideas to people, and helping people to see where you want to go and bringing them on the journey with you, the stronger you'll be at product management, the faster you can grow in your career. 6 is your key to success is relationships. So I kind of just mentioned this before, but I wanted to reiterate that. Relationships are everything in product management. And so what sucks in product management is not having those relationships, right? And so when you think about everything that has to go on, right, who you have to have a relationship with, what sucks is if you don't have those relationships in product, your career is done, right? I've seen product managers lose their jobs because they couldn't learn how to work with their engineering team, right? And so what you have to realize is if you can become a really strong relationship builder, you can be successful. But if you can't, that can be very make or break for your career. And so what I suggest is to spend that time cultivating relationships. Whenever I start on a new team or start with working with new people, one of the things I had to learn, and I didn't always do this, is I had to learn how to say, how do you work best? How do you want to work with a product manager? What is your experience? What are you looking for out of this working relationship, right? And when I started doing that, I found that I was able to get through those stages of relationship building and team development much faster, right? And so you think about like the Tuckman 5 stages of team development. And most of those are actually, you're probably familiar with if you took like one business class in college. And it's that idea of you going from, forming, storming, norming, performing, all those different stages, right? And then ultimately adjourning. This is where that stuff applies, right? If you have successful relationships and you've taken the time to do relationship building, you can get through these stages a lot faster because your goal is you want to get from forming to performing as fast as possible, right? Especially if you're in a Scrum team, especially if you are trying to deliver software, you want to get to those phases faster. And if you can cultivate those relationships and have people trust you and trust your vision and trust you as a teammate, you're going to be successful, right? And that's part of the role. You have to know there are times where you have to be the product manager, you have to say no, you have to be tough. And there are times where you have to lead with empathy and really be a teammate. And then there's other times, right, when people are super confused and you have to turn on that visionary thing and kind of show people the road they're going down, show people what you're building and what comes next. The other thing that sucks is when your requirements are wrong. When your requirements are wrong, well, that can be pretty make or break. And a lot of times you're in situations where as the product manager, you are sometimes the only person who can really advocate for the user, depending on what you're building, right? Maybe you have a UX designer, maybe you don't. Maybe you have to do your own design, And in those cases, right, if you get customer advocacy wrong, you get your feature wrong, and sometimes that can even mess with your team's trust. And I've been through this as well, right? But you can do here in these situations are you can advocate and promote a continuous delivery and agile mindset. And what that means is collect data, right? Use your research team. If you don't have a research team, conduct your own research. Bring in your engineers, bring in your team when possible into that research and help them form the same understandings you are. And that's what I mean by bring them in on the journey. That doesn't always make sense, right? You don't have to necessarily do it right away. But when you have those opportunities, do that. Also, triple check yourself. Like self-check is really important. Check your assumptions. Am I making an assumption here? Is this a calculated assumption? Are these calculated risks I'm taking? And vet that with your peers, right? One of the things that I love to do, I call sparring, right? And it's this idea where you're just putting your ideas, your whiteboard sessions and things like that in front of your peers, other product managers, and letting them poke holes in your ideas. That's how you make sure that you're thinking about it the right way. And think about your strategies. What are you trying to achieve? What is your goal? What is the metrics you're trying to move? What are those things? Most of the time as a product manager, like nobody's double checking your work, right? There's an expectation that once you're at a certain level in product that you just know what you're doing. And so this is not necessarily for APMs. APMs can typically be like, they're typically pretty well supported, and in their case they might have someone. But once you get past like APM and into PM, definitely into senior director levels, right, no one's checking that. So you have to have strong convictions, you have to have those strong pieces, because people are trusting you, they're trusting you to do that thing. So what I'm saying to you is be meticulous during this phase, really think about it. Even if you're someone who's interviewing, right? One of my favorite interview tips are, if you get, 40 minutes to do a whiteboard exercise, I'd like to see 20 minutes on how you explore the user, right? How do you break out the user, the behaviors, the problem? How do you think about those things? And then share your approach. Let others give you feedback. I was mentioning this before, whether that is feedback from your engineering team, your UX design, research when possible. Get feedback as much as possible early on, and then as you start to build things, right, and you think about that continuous delivery and agile mindset, test things, whether it's A/B testing, or if you're on the enterprise side, you have the opportunity to talk to customers, whatever that thing is, get that feedback early and often and keep pushing through. And one last distinction that I want to make sure that you realize is really important is customer requirements are not necessarily product requirements. And this is especially true for my friends in the enterprise space or even in the consumer space, right? You see people on Twitter all the time. We need this feature on my iPhone. I have to have this thing. What does that really translate into? Do they really need that feature? What is the need that's in there, right? And remember that you're always going to solve the problem. You're solving for the need. You're not solving just for the thing that people think they want. Because most of the time, what people think they want in terms of product and software and features isn't necessarily what they want. They're trying to solve a need. And what you should do as a product manager, either yourself or in concert with people on your team, is understand what's the want, what's the motivation, what are they actually trying to solve for, and you build software for that thing, right? Most of the software we use today aren't things that we knew that we wanted. Think about Instagram, right? Instagram's probably the most popular piece of social media ever. But people didn't know that they needed a collection of places to post about their lives and show pictures of themselves. But they did know they wanted to share. They did know Facebook as it stood was a little wordy, and they were more interested in the pictures, right? And then that's where Instagram comes in, right? And they created an experience that was more tied to the motivation and what people wanted, not necessarily what they thought that they needed. So number 4, it really sucks when you're not data-driven enough. That can be a terrible thing. And data-driven product management varies, right? And I think right now it's kind of a buzzword. It's a buzz thing. And you're going to see a million talks on how to be a data-driven product manager, right? At the end of the day, that is going to vary a bit, and it's on you to decide how you do that. But what I will say is the devil is in the details, and the growth and success can really be in the data if you let it inspire the work that you do. And so the more you focus on data and the better you can implement it and put it into your ideas, the faster you can grow and the more successful you'll be. And so the thing to know and always remember is there is always data. There is always a metric. There is always something you can pull on, whether it's a quantitative or qualitative metric, there's something. And so a lot of people say, well, there's not data, so I'm not going to do any instrumentation, or there's not data, so I'm not going to have KPIs or success metrics. There's always something, and find that data, find those data points that support your designs where you're going, right? It helps in the relationship building. It helps to build trust in your ideas when you have those metrics backing up how you got to where you're going. It helps from a visionary perspective, especially when you're trying to lead your team down a path and build software that doesn't exist. A lot of the products that I've built up to this point have been like in the 0 to 100 category, right? There was nothing, and we built something, and we created a feature, we created a product suite, whatever that thing was, right? And so to be able to do that, you have to have that data that informs as to what is the right way to go. And if you design with your data and key outputs in mind, I think that helps a lot too, right? And so you hear people talking about success metrics, right? But think about it, really take that time to dig into that. One of my favorite approaches to that is the ARM methodology. So it's like AARM. And so if you want to learn a little bit more about that, look into that. It's a great baseline for how to think about metrics. There's also some great courses on LinkedIn for how you think about metrics, but I would highly suggest those as you start to think about like what adoption to success looks like for your products. So let's get into number 3. One thing that really sucks is this mantra. If you're successful, it's the team, but if you fail, it's the PM. And this is probably like, oh, that's super toxic. No, that's not the case, but it's true more than likely. And if you talk to a PM who's been a PM for a while, they'll have a story about a time where things didn't go right, and as a PM, they had to take accountability for that. And failure is inevitable. You're going to have features that don't do well. You're going to have times where you mess up. I've messed up enough times to tell you about it, right? In healthy teams, people should share the blame, but in reality, you do have to have someone who takes ownership. You have to have someone who says, here's how we can do this better. Here is a place where I am going to help do this better, right? And most of the time, that is going to be you. If you, as a product manager, think about it, right? If you guys build something and the thing that you build doesn't translate right, and it doesn't meet those metrics, right? Engineers didn't code it wrong. They probably could have used better requirements. They could have used better business guidance as to what to build, right? That comes back to the product manager. If you release buggy software, is it because quality didn't test it? Or is it because you didn't provide the correct acceptance criteria to have quality tested even more thoroughly, and maybe you weren't involved as you could have been in the test strategy? Maybe that was the thing, right? If you have any type of issues as far as, hey, this thing, the pricing's off for this, it's not selling because we priced it wrong. We priced this piece of software wrong. Maybe if you had been a little more involved with your marketing and strategy teams, you might have done it, you know what I mean? And you can kind of keep thinking about this, right? And this is a hard one to accept, right? But if you start leading with accountability, you can really do some amazing things. And so realize if you don't fail, you don't grow. One of my favorite interview questions, and it comes from Facebook, is they will ask you in an interview, or at least I've been told this, right? They have an interview question, they say, tell me about a time that you failed. And they talk to you about failure on end, and something I use when I'm interviewing people now as well. And the reason for that is it's inevitable, right? And so as you start to think about it, right? As you start to think about what it means to be successful in a role and be successful in the things that you do, you'll realize is failure actually helps you get to the next level. The biggest times of growth for me in my career were times where I didn't think I was doing a thing right, or I had to learn how to improvise and do it better. And those are the times that I grew. Those are the opportunities that helped me to mentor other people, to grow teams, to build teams when I was able to do that. And so the point is, know that you are going to make a mistake. Know that you're going to fail at something. Know that you're going to have to take accountability, and know that as a result, you're just going to be a stronger product manager and a stronger employee, a stronger teammate as a result of it. You're the what, not the how. Your work is not to tell people how to do their jobs. Again, you're not the CEO. I know for some people, they're like falling out of their chairs. Like, why does she keep saying that? Because it's true. You're not. You don't get to say that. What you do get to think about is how you deliver value. You do get to think about is how you can help the team move forward, right? But you're not the what. I mean, you're not the how. That's just not what you do, right? And so if you find yourself and you're in a place, right, where you're telling engineers or stakeholders how to do their jobs, you're not doing your own job. And essentially, you're going to start sucking at your job. And so what you need to think about is, don't overextend yourself. You constantly find product managers who are burnt out, who are doing a lot of hours, who are doing so much for other people. And what you want to do is you want to be in the details, you want to be involved, right? And so, like my last slide, right, I talked about how do you spend time with your quality team to make sure that they're thinking about their testing strategy and test cases in a way that prevents bugs. How do you spend more time with engineers, right? There's processes for that, right? And there's opportunities to do that. And you do that in a scalable way. You sit in, you get an idea of where they're going, and then you let people do their jobs. You influence, you share perspective, but you are not someone who has to spend that time overextending yourself and micromanaging people to the point where you're no longer effective as a product manager. And so what you need to think about is, am I contributing to what needs to happen or how it needs to happen? If the meeting is, what is the test strategy? And let's define the test strategy. That's where you need to be. Do you need to be in the meeting where they're going over how they're going to deliver each of the technical details? Not necessarily. it can be useful if you want to, especially if you want to get more technical or know more about how your software comes to be. But your job is on the what needs to happen. And when you focus there and you spend your energy doing the things that are high value, not only for yourself, but for your team, you're going to grow your career and you will turn into a stronger product manager as a result. Because what I don't want for you is I don't want you to be a sucky product manager. I don't want you to suck at your job when you don't have to. But this is something that a lot of PMs struggle with. It's something I struggled with at the beginning of my career, right? I was so in everything, right? I was working 60-hour work weeks, trying to do it all. And then I realized that was not where I drove value. I drove value in articulating what I asked and what I needed from the team better, and being present, but not necessarily being so in everything that I was losing my touch and I was not being able to do the thing that I got hired to do and do the things that were most impactful to me as a product manager, right? And so now here is the last one. So I'm gonna give you a little drum roll, you know? I'm not sure if you can hear that, but that's your drum roll. Number one, it's okay to say no. I know it sucks to be on the other side of a no, but as a product manager, you have to realize that it sucks when you don't say no. There will always be scope creep. There will always be a customer that needs something. Your engineers are always gonna want more from you. Sales will always need you to build the next thing. But what you have to realize is you have to say no, and you have to be strong in your no. It's okay to say no. It's okay to exercise those rights and to lead that way. And so what I want you to realize is you don't have to say yes. You don't have to say yes to any of those things. You need to have strong convictions. You need to have a backbone. You need to be able to stick with the plan that you set in place. And this is a delicate thing because there will be times when you don't want to, right? There will be times where that's going to be extremely hard to do. And you have to learn when to adjust that, right? Maybe you say no to scope creep, but you say yes to some performance enhancements or building and fixing some bugs, right? But maybe you say no to building that net new feature right now. Maybe you say it's better to have a strong quality-driven foundation than to build, more features that will create more technical debt later, right? Maybe you have to agree with yourself that if you don't agree with something, you have to speak up, right? As a product manager, you're in meetings all day long. I can guarantee you, if you're not yet a product manager, get ready for it, right? You're gonna be in meetings all day. That's also a sucky thing, you can always think of that as the sucky honorable mention. You are in meetings all day. However, you wanna be present in those meetings, and you wanna speak up when things don't make sense. You are the person who leads innovation, right? That is what you bring to the table. You are not just the person who brings the business side. You're not just the person who is a glorified project manager. You are the innovation. You're the visionary. You're the person who is bringing these ideas, and you have to utilize your strength and your ability to push the envelope. I know I talked to someone about this opportunity before, and they said, how do you say no to executives? How do you tell an executive no? With data. If you follow that first thing, a couple steps back, right? You have your data, you've articulated your points, you've articulated your trade-offs, you surface it up to your executive and you say, this is why we're saying no. And one of the great things is your executive can give you things that will help you turn it into a yes, but they will also respect that you took the time to think about it, right? And that's no with anyone. Don't say no just to be like, an angry toddler who likes to say no, but really think about what it means to say no in a situation and how you can work through that thing. And so saying no doesn't have to suck, but thinking about it, articulating your no, having a backbone is really important. One of the things I say to people sometimes is respect makes people like you. I know in product management, it is very easy to fall into the likability and politics of product management. You're working across a lot of different functions. You need people to like you. You need people to want to work with you because it makes it easier to do your job. But if people respect you, that goes way further than like. Everyone's got the person at the office that everyone likes, but isn't necessarily that good at their jobs, but they like him, so they get a pass. But if everyone respects you, everyone's worked with that person that people just respect. And if you can get into more of that focus and make that part of your brand as a product manager, the fact that people respect you, they respect the work that you do, and they value you, then the likability will come, right? I like working with people I respect. I like working with people who I know how to do their jobs and that I know are effective. And I want for you to be an effective product manager. I don't want sucky product managers. And so just to recap what we talked about today, you're not the CEO of the product. And for some of you, I'm sure that is why you thought about getting into product management, and you're watching this video and you're probably texting your friends like, what the heck, this girl said, hey, I'm not the CEO, but you're not. And anyone who tells you that isn't doing you any favors. Your key to success is relationships, and without relationships in product management, you will suck. And it is a sucky aspect, especially if you're somebody who's not necessarily into building relationships. But if you can focus on that, right? If that's a skill set that you can really learn how to build, you can be successful in this field for years. It really sucks when your requirements are wrong, and most of the time nobody's going to tell you they're wrong because you are the single source of truth in some situations. And so what's important to do is to create an environment where you're getting continuous feedback, where you're thinking about strategy, where you're checking your own assumptions. And when you do that, you don't have to suck at that, and requirements don't have to suck when they're wrong, because ideally you'll get them right. It really sucks when you're not data-driven enough, because that can hurt your product, it can hurt the vision that you set, and it can ultimately hurt your team if you haven't done the appropriate work to make sure that you have data. But what's important to realize is that there's always data. Don't use that as a cop out, that there's not data. There's always data. And when you realize that there's always data, and you think about how to use instrumentation and the things that you're building, and when you think about metrics first and how you move the needle and what you want to accomplish first through data, there will always be enough, and it won't be something that sucks. This mantra doesn't feel good, but it's true. If you're successful, it's a team. If you fail, it's a PM. It sucks, but if you get comfortable with failure, if you get comfortable with having accountability in situations and realizing how you as a PM can better lead the team, better grow the team, it will only make you a stronger product manager. The number 2 was you're the what, not the how. For some of you, that sucks because you are maybe a micromanager. I know a lot of PMs are micromanager people who are in everyone's stuff, or especially if you've been an engineer before and now you're on the product side and you know how to build a thing, or you know how to do a thing. You've been a QA, you know how to, test a thing, whatever that is, right? You have to realize that it's no longer your job. I don't want you to overextend yourself. So if you realize that you're the what and not the how, you're gonna go so much further in your career. And the last thing to think about is it's okay to say no. It's okay to not know. It's okay. It's okay to not want to go with something. It's okay to tell your executives no. It's okay to tell your engineers no. It's okay to tell sales no, and anyone else who comes to you doing things that don't make sense for the product and where you want to go. And when you develop that backbone and know when to use no and when to use maybe, you don't have to suck at it, right? But it can suck, right? It can be very hard to be that person who has to be the contrarian in the situation, who has to say no, who has to push back, especially when product managers' likability is so much a part of their job and people's desire to work with you. But if you get comfortable in your no, get comfortable with how you think about that, you can have extreme success in this career. And so that's it. Thank you for attending. Please find me on LinkedIn. Let me know how this session went for you. Let me know if it was interesting for you. If it sucked, let me know that too. But thank you. And if you have any questions, just let me know. All right. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.